This is CBC Here and Now.
If you went beyond that and comparing to their other alternatives, that the maritime link and the overall construct wasn't going to be successful.
Tonight, lowballing the costs of Muskrat Falls. Details emerge showing why Nalcor execs lowered the estimate to get approval in Nova Scotia.
And how did some of those managers, those top managers, get their jobs?
It's a substantial sum of money, enough certainly to make a complaint to the RNC.
Police are investigating in Corner Brook after money goes missing from the Volunteer Downtown Business Association.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Debbie Cooper.
And I'm Anthony Germain. Well, let's get to our top story. And that comes from the Muskrat Falls inquiry, where today there was a stunning admission. One of the most senior people at Nalcor admitted that the overall cost of the project was deliberately lowballed.
Lowballed, according to Gilbert Bennett, for two reasons: to ensure a federal loan guarantee would come through and to help the Nova Scotia company Emera get the approval it needed to become involved in the project.
And Bennett went on to say that former CEO Ed Martin is the person who made that decision, and he also said he wasn't sure if the provincial government was ever told that the financial numbers were intentionally lowered. Bennett made that revelation while answering questions this afternoon from inquiry lawyer Kate O'Brien.
You were there at these negotiations,
Yes.
okay? Do you recall one of the things that you did to address, getting it below this threshold was to either reduce the confidence level or somehow remove strategic risk amounts or some of the tactical risk amounts, but remove any contingencies, reserve amounts from the numbers in order to get it below that
I'm acknowledging that's what was done, yeah.
Okay, so you know that's what was done? Yes? Yes. And you were there?
I was there for many of the sessions, yes. And I
Okay.
knew this was an issue.
And you knew that this
That
is
the whole question of what the price was going to be an important issue in this negotiation.
And who ultimately made the decision to do that?
Ultimately, Mr. Martin would be involved in that decision, yes.
Okay, who else was involved?
He's a decision maker.
So it was Ed Martin's decision.
Right, when it comes to concluding the negotiations, he's got the final say.
Now, Gilbert Bennett and Ed Martin were two of the most senior employees at Nalcor. Another one testified at the inquiry last week. That was Paul Harrington.
Tonight, we take a look at Bennett and Harrington and how they got those big jobs. Here Now's Mark Quinn has that story. He's live with us now from the Governor Inn in St. John. So, Mark, why the Governor?
Well, Debbie, that's right. I'm here outside the Governor because this is where one of the key members of the Muskrat Falls project team first found out about his job. More than 10 years ago, Paul Harrington, who's the project's director, met here with Nalcor's Ed Martin and Gilbert Bennett.
Today, Bennett says he does remember taking part in the decision to hire Harrington. Harrington had previously worked in the oil industry, but he had never worked as a project director on a mega project like this.
Looking at his experience, I had no issue. Ed knew him.
We learned today that Bennett also didn't go through a competitive process to get his job on the project either. He has an engineering degree, but worked in the telecom sector until he was hired to work on the Lower Churchill.
Early in 2005, I was approached by the chair of Hydro at the time, by Dean MacDonald.
He knew Dean MacDonald because they had previously worked together at Cable Atlantic, where former Premier Danny Williams was the primary owner until its sale in 2000.
And was this a competitive process?
I don't know what other process Hydro had to look for the position. I was approached directly by him.
So it wasn't, you didn't go through to your knowledge, there wasn't other people interviewed, there wasn't a posting for this position?
I didn't see a posting, but I don't know what else they did.
Now, Bennett says the team did learn a lot on the job as they developed the project, but he says when he was first hired, he had no hydroelectric project experience, no construction management experience, and no mega project experience. Live at the Governor, I'm Mark Quinn for Here and Now.
The group that supports businesses in Corner Brook's downtown is in trouble. Money went missing from the Downtown Business Association. The group has suspended its activities and now the police are involved. Here Now's Colleen Connors has more.
The Downtown Business Association is mainly a volunteer group that promotes local entrepreneurs. But the group stopped all that in late October when the board of directors discovered money was missing. The group won't say how much, just that it's a lot.
It was a substantial sum of money, enough certainly to make a complaint to the RNC.
Locks were changed, passwords secured, and any remaining assets protected. And individuals associated with the allegations were suspended. Ash says the whole ordeal is disheartening for the mostly volunteer group.
Sometimes when something like this happens, it feels like your legs are cut out from under you. But as the board of directors, we have to take the responsibility to take up the reins and to do what we can to resolve the situation.
That involves working closely with the police and the city of Corner Brook that funds the association. Downtown business owners pay a levy that goes to the association. The board asked the city to not issue the levy this year, while work is suspended.
The Downtown Business Association has one paid staff member, and that's the position of executive director. Now, Ash won't say who's involved here, nor how much money is gone. He certainly does hope that the public doesn't lose trust in this association, which works very hard to beautify and improve the downtown core of Corner Brook.
Immediately, as soon as this information came to light, the board of directors did the responsible thing and immediately took steps to protect what it was that we had left, and immediately took steps to have the matter investigated and worked closely alongside the City of Corner Brook and the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary.
Ash believes the association can recover once the police finish investigating. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
As interprovincial borders are coming down, we're going to see more beer, we'll call it foreign Canadian beer, coming across our borders. So it's important for us to be competitive here in Newfoundland.
Tax breaks for breweries. There are more craft beer and spirit makers in this province than ever before.
We'll hear about new legislation that's supposed to help them grow their business.
We're just outside a pub with Mark Quinn, where it was pretty foggy, I noticed. Now it's often foggy at pubs, but for different reasons. But yeah, a lot of fog today.
Yep, especially here, yeah, on the Avalon. And then we saw some pretty significant, you can't hear me apparently.
I can hear you.
Well, let's
That's it.
Yeah, use that mic. Look at the forecast over the next couple of days. We're going to see, or rather over the next 24 hours, flurries will continue for Labrador. It looks not too bad for the West Coast. That's where most of the sunshine should be tomorrow. And then again, that RDF will continue through the day tomorrow for at least the Avalon. And then towards midweek, things are going to change. We're going to see some winds and then eventually some significant rainfall on the way too. But I'll have all those details coming up in a bit.
Okay, we'll look forward to hearing you deliver that. Thanks, Ashley. Well, there were no injuries Friday after a gun went off during a robbery at a St. John's bank. Two men entered TD Bank on Kelsey Drive, demanded money from a teller, and later fled in a truck. The truck quickly went off the snow-covered O'Leary Avenue, and one man was arrested right away. Now, the other was picked up after a short foot chase. He had tried to carjack a stopped vehicle, but was stopped by the off-duty RNC officer who was driving it. Both men face a number of charges, including armed robbery and a range of weapons offenses.
The investigation into an oil spill at Husky Energy's Sea Rose FPSO continues. An estimated 250,000 liters of crude spilled into the ocean when an underwater valve failed 10 days ago. Husky was attempting to restart operations after an intense winter storm. So far, the company says there have been 10 observation flights and 4 vessels monitoring for oil on the water. 5 seabirds are known to have died so far, but biologists say that number is likely much higher. The Sea Rose will remain shut down until Husky gets approval from the Offshore Petroleum Board to restart production.
Big news out of Ontario tonight. General Motors has announced it's halting vehicle production at its Oshawa, Ontario plant in 2019. It will close Oshawa and 4 facilities in the U.S. It says it is cutting 15% of its North American workforce. GM says it's part of a global restructuring. The company says its new focus is on electric and autonomous vehicles. Today's grim news blindsided many, including Oshawa's mayor.
Well, the plant's busy making pickup trucks. The reinvestments of hundreds of millions of dollars into the plant just a couple of years ago was a sign of how quickly the plant could shift and adapt. And our auto workers have done an amazing job to do that, and with technology here in Canada. So it was a little shocking to hear.
More than 2,500 union jobs as well as non-union positions are at stake. A report says 29,000 additional spin-off positions could be in jeopardy. Ontario's economy could face an estimated $5 billion hit.
Here 28 years. I've been through a closure in Scarborough. I've been through a closure in London. I moved my family twice for this company. And they do this to me. It's terrible.
Me, my brother, and my father work here actually, so it'll be pretty horrible for the whole family.
And what do you do when you lose your job? Well, many workers in this province are dealing with the same thing with the recent announcement that Rona hardware stores are shutting down. We'll take a look at how you cope later on Here and Now with the beginning of a series of consumer tips from debt counsellor Al Antle. Well, it is good news for the craft beverage industry in this province today. Government announced it will give those businesses a tax break to encourage more growth. Here now is Carolyn Stokes standing by live with more. So, Carolyn, who will benefit from this?
Well, Debbie, craft beer brewing companies like the one here behind me in Kitty Vitty Village, local distilleries, wineries, and cideries will all save money because of this. There are now about 12 craft beverage producers in the province right now, and 10 more are looking to launch, so it is a growing sector. Now, those businesses pay a markup fee to the Newfoundland and Labrador Liquor Corporation on the beer and spirits that they sell. And today at the brewery in Dildo, government announced that it will increase the discount on that fee. It means the industry as a whole will get to keep around $360,000. Owners say that will help bolster their business, but even with this new discount, those businesses still say they pay the highest taxes in the country. Finance Minister Tom Osborne says this is the first step to help curb the cost of operating in this province.
We recognize the tourism and the employment opportunities that exist with this industry, and in some very unique places in the province. You look at Port Rexton in an area that attracts a great number of tourists. You look at Harbour Grace and what Yellow Belly are going to be doing with Harbour Grace, what Dildo Brewery are doing here with employment in an area of the province that you'd never anticipate something like this. It's an industry we want to support. It's an industry we want to continue to work with. You know, anytime you're able to lower the costs of an industry, they're able to put that money back into their industry and grow and expand.
It's definitely positive news. It's a first step in the right direction. We've got a very difficult taxation in Newfoundland. We're still the worst in Canada by over 3 times. It's just it's been hard for our industry to really grow. All the breweries that are open now are sold out of beer all the time, and this tax break will let us reinvest more into our facility, more into our manufacturing, and create more jobs. So hopefully we'll have enough capacity next year so we don't run out of beer in the summer.
Liquor Corporation kind of been almost like a sacred cow, and looked at more as a revenue generator than as a sort of business development thing. And I think the craft industry has shown, and the new craft distilleries that are popping up has shown that this is more of a business case than just a case for revenues, but actually the economic spin-off that the government are starting to see with the creation, like Dildo Brewery out here in Dildo, of jobs around in rural Newfoundland.
And those business owners are hoping an upcoming study about the economic impact of the craft beverage industry will help justify more tax cuts in the new year. And also announced today, government says it will allow the do-it-yourself beer brewing and wine-making stores in this province, something that has proved to be quite popular in other provinces. Reporting live from Kitty Vitty Village, I'm Carolyn Stokes for Here and Now.
We all got to make that first step. If you don't make it, you're not going to get there. You just got to make that step.
As Stella Circle launches its annual Hope campaign, we'll meet a woman whose life has changed radically thanks to the organization.
Well, we were talking about the RDF today, but yesterday was bright sunshine in our neck of the woods. Cold, but sunny. Great day for a parade.
Yep. Lots of fun in St. John's yesterday.
That's right, yeah.
It was the annual downtown Christmas parade, and just look, there were so many lovely costumes there today. Lots of people too.
And lots of kids, which is always a fantastic thing, and lots of grown-ups you see there celebrating, and the crowd was really thick. And it was sunny, but as you mentioned, it was pretty cold, Ash.
Yeah, you had to dress in layers.
I noticed it zigzagging down because we were there, and it was really cold where the sun wasn't shining.
Yes.
So we're told about 60,000 people, including the CBC
There you go. Chrissy Holmes and Ashley.
Yeah. And yourself, and I was watching from the sidelines delivering coffee.
Yes, that was much appreciated.
And the big guy.
Yeah. No, it was a very nice parade. I've watched many of them. It was one of the better ones. Lovely new floats. It was great.
Yeah, for my first parade, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's
It was so nice interacting with all of you, and hanging
so many
out.
people happy to meet you.
Yeah,
and all that.
all the little kids. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very nice. But, you know, you mentioned temperatures today a little bit warmer than we saw this weekend. Sitting in the single digits for the most part across the island and into Labrador. We're seeing temperatures a little bit cooler. Now, towards the coast, it was warmer, around 3 degrees for Nain, but Labrador City sitting at about -4. Those temperatures have dropped just a little bit and will continue to do so as we head through the night tonight. But temperatures aren't really moving much over the next 24 hours, especially for most of the island up through Labrador as well. You're going to see temperatures only hovering or moving anyway from about 3, maybe 5 degrees over the next 24 hours. So not too bad there. If we take a look at satellite and radar, not a whole lot happening, but we are in that northeast flow. So that drizzle and fog, that typical setup is certainly happening right now. And then we've got a nice day along the west coast for the most part, just seeing a little bit of cloud cover move through. And we're going to continue to see this setup as we head through the day tomorrow. Now, overnight tonight, we're looking at that risk of flurries for the most part for central towards anywhere really along the northeast coast is where we could see that as those temperatures drop tonight, and then flurries the story up through Labrador overnight tonight and then continuing as we head through the day tomorrow. But most of the west coast looks like it should be a pretty nice day into the afternoon. And then the next system will start to move in as we head towards the weekend, or rather midweek, with most of that cloud cover moving in tomorrow night for parts of the south coast. So here's a look at the forecast for tonight. Freezing drizzle possible for central. We're going to hang on to that fog right along the northeast coast and down through the Avalon. Same for Burin Peninsula as well. 2 degrees should be the overnight low in Marystown. St. John's, same thing, and then hovering around the 0 degree mark through central. Along the west coast, temperatures between 0 and -1. And then St. Anthony, looking at that chance of showers eventually tapering off, and then looking at a mix of partly cloudy skies as we head through the night tonight. The Straits looking at partly cloudy skies as well, -6. Freezing drizzle possible along the coast through to Happy Valley Goose Bay, along with that chance of flurries. And then Labrador City hovering around -10 tonight, with a wind chill feeling closer to -17. Now tomorrow, I mentioned that RDF will continue for at least the Avalon. Slight chance of some wet snow through central, and then even that potential for some freezing drizzle as well. Most of the winds will be for the Avalon and along the northeast coast, gusting about 50 kilometers per hour at times along the west coast. Not too bad. Winds out of the northeast generally at about 20 kilometers an hour, but it does look like a lovely day. Temperatures still a little bit below seasonal for this time of year, in the single digits for the most part. St. Anthony sitting at 0 with that chance of drizzle through the day. And then flurries the story again through Labrador, hovering around 0, maybe 2 degrees from Happy Valley Goose Bay westward, eastward rather, and then Lab City sitting around -5. Again, those winds really aren't the story tomorrow. They will pick up though Wednesday into Thursday, but I'll have all those details when I come back in a little bit.
Thanks, Ashley. Eastern Health wants you to talk to your kids about legal cannabis. It's been a month since the first legal recreational marijuana was sold in this province, but Eastern Health says questions and concerns still remain. Officials have even said some youth say they're still a little confused about legalization. So now they're holding community awareness sessions to help parents talk to their kids about cannabis. They're aiming to crack down on myths and deal in cold, hard facts. The session will be held tonight for parents at the Paul Reynolds Centre in St. John's.
It's a beacon for struggling women and a call to the rest of us to help. Stella Circle in St. John's is lighting up the word hope to raise money for its programs. It's the 4th year for the fundraiser, and this one will be the biggest ever. Here Now's Jeremy Eaton has a story now about how Stella Circle changed one person's life forever.
Kathy Snow is one of Stella Circle's success stories. This time last year, she was living an entirely different life.
Single mama too, struggling, budgeting, depressed, lonely, doing nothing, and it was time to figure out and get something going.
Snow walked through the doors at Stella Circle in January. It wasn't easy.
And when I walked in there, into that transition group, I'm like, wow, I'm not alone. Because a lot of people probably think they're alone, but you're not. You're actually not. And now I feel like I belong somewhere, like I actually belong.
She actually latched in my arm, but we were arm in arm.
Snow now has a job for Stella Circle's commercial cleaning business, Clean Start. She worked her way up to team lead and now trains new workers.
As much credit as she would give to Stella Circle and the staff and the programs that we have here, Kathy needs to take a lot of credit herself for all of the work and the preservation that she's put into to taking that first step.
The employment program that Snow took part in is one of the many programs offered by Stella Circle, programs that need funding, hence Light Up Hope.
2, 1,
Held on what's known as Giving Tuesday, following on the heels of Black Friday and Cyber Monday, people can donate cash to Stella Circle to help more people like Kathy.
Our vision is a home, a job, a community, and that sense of community is really critical. And I think people who have come to the Light Up Hope event really get that sense of community and involvement. People need to belong, to be part of something.
But we all got to make that first step. If you don't make it, you're not going to get there. You just got to make that step.
The Light Up Hope event will happen in this part of Military Road, giving the group more room for more people tomorrow night. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, St. John's.
I have no words. I'm just really desperately sad.
People in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia are getting ready for a vigil tonight.
This to remember a young girl who died tragically during Saturday's Santa Claus parade.
She's being remembered as a little girl who loved helping other people. 4-year-old Macaulay Cormier died tragically this weekend at the Christmas Parade of Lights in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. Police say she was running alongside a moving float when she fell underneath it. She was treated right away by first responders and sent to hospital where she was pronounced dead. A candlelight vigil is planned for tonight in the town. People there say they are in shock.
Prayed and we're all having a good time, and next thing we know, the float stopped, and then I looked down about 30 feet away and I saw something on the ground, and it was just awful. People were screaming and the parents were crying and wailing. It was just the worst thing I've ever saw in my life.
I have no words. I'm just really desperately sad. I'm a fixer, so I want to fix. Sorry.
If you own a house in St. John's, your property assessment has probably gone down, but if you think that means a break on your taxes, not so fast. Today, the 2019 assessments for St. John's homeowners were released, but while there was an average 4.17 drop in the value of assessments, even with that drop, homeowners can expect to pay more in taxes next year. That's because the city anticipates an increase of 5 to 8% on the mill rate. If you're a homeowner concerned with your current assessment, the deadline to get in touch with the city and appeal that has been extended until January the 31st. Well, Rick Mercer has received one of the highest and most prestigious honors in Middle Cove, at least. The celebrated comedian received the key to the town where he grew up. He accepted the award over the weekend and said he was a little bit surprised by all the fuss and fanfare. About 160 people came out to celebrate their hometown hero, and there was even an old sketch performed from when Mercer was just a kid. Mercer recently released a new book chronicling the end of his television show. Rick Mercer's book, you can hear them yakking it up there. It's entitled Final Reports, and it's in stores now.
There is a beautiful new Christmas tree in Tignish, Prince Edward Island tonight, one with a very special meaning. It's made entirely of lobster traps. Hundreds of people were outside the local Catholic church last night when it was lit in memory of 2 fishermen who died in September. And its goal is to help the community remember and heal. Steve Bruce has more.
Just 2 months after tragedy struck this tight-knit town, a reason on this night to cheer.
It was just beautiful. I'd never seen anything more beautiful in my life. They did such an amazing job.
This tree, made entirely of lobster traps, is a memorial to Mo Getson and Captain Glenn DeRoche, the 2 Tignish fishermen who died at sea in September, and to others who died before them.
May the light of a candle or a tree.
The town's recreation director came up with the idea.
For anybody who's lost a fisherman over the years, and just a place to go that when they go home, they can leave it here. They can have their sorrows here. Just kind of want to give them a place to go that was peaceful.
Think about my brother Glenn. It's only been a few months, but it seems like a few years. Time's kind of dragging on. I miss him a lot.
Definitely Christmas time, we'll be coming here to think of Mo and the rest of the fishermen that died. But it'll probably mean a lot to us, though, since Mo won't be here with us for this Christmas, so.
And getting this tree together was a whole community effort. The 100 sets of lights, all donated by locals. So were the 150 traps, all of them stacked 6 meters high in just 2.5 hours by who else but fishermen.
Fishermen are wonderful. I thought we needed carpenters. They're like, no, we need fishermen. They put these things together on their boats. They know how to do this. I put it on Facebook. Hey, we only got 6 sets of hands. We need some more. And in an hour, we had about 25 people here.
Then there's this crowd, an estimated 600 people that came out to be a part of the lighting and support the fishermen's friends and family. Among them, some of the dozens of ground search and rescue volunteers who spent days combing the shoreline back in September before their bodies were finally found.
I wanted to be here to show my support, to show the love that a community has for each other.
A community still healing. Mark Arsenault is hoping to do his part to help through song. He's a friend of DeRoche and Getson and a fellow fisherman. He wrote this for them just a week and a half after their boat capsized. Arsenault says this community tree lighting seemed like a fitting place to finally perform it.
With the stone away,
on the return trail till we're called away.
This community is very strong, and tragedy brings out the best in people, I guess. If there's a good part about all this, that's what it is.
This tree will be lit every evening through the holiday season, an effort to make what will be a difficult Christmas for so many here just a little bit brighter. Steve Bruce, CBC News, Tignish.
Good story. On to other news now. It happened to people working the oil fields in Alberta. It also happened to workers at Rona Hardware. And now we're learning that thousands of GM jobs are going to disappear in Ontario. Well, losing your job is always dreadful news. But Al Ansel from the Credit Counseling Service of Newfoundland and Labrador says there are ways to get through layoffs.
So, you just got the worst news in the world. You lost your job. What are you going to do? You are not going to panic. Start off by taking the time to understand what's happened to you. Make a list of what you owe, who you owe it to. Make a list of what it costs you to stay alive. What does it cost you to operate this household? What do you have around you in terms of assets? Do you own stuff that you might be able to dispose of? Now, we're not suggesting that you sell a toothpick. We're saying the first period of time after you got the wretched news is an assessment time. You take the time, you make the time to look at your situation. It's also critically important that you change your standard of living as you're going. Don't consume goods, services, or anything else on a credit card for a while. Things have changed, therefore you need to change. You may find yourself having to evaluate, where does my money go and what do I spend it on? At the end of the day and at the end of the process, all you're going to do for the first 5 weeks is look, see, try and figure out what your options are. Then you're going to go back and say, okay, now I'm ready to move forward.
Plex, it's a mix of betrayal, fury, anger. I don't know, anger doesn't do it any justice because they're ripping the heart and soul out of this community.
They are not closing our damn plant without one hell of a fight.
Well, back to those job losses in Oshawa. Shock turns to anger. General Motors confirms it is shutting down its assembly plant there, throwing thousands out of work.
The latest from that Ontario location and its impact not just in Ontario, but in Canada. That's next.
Stop. Welcome back to Here and Now, everyone.
Two long-lost friends were reunited yesterday at the CBC Broadcast Centre in Toronto.
The two live in Ontario these days, but knew each other when they both lived in St. John's. You're about to meet Ernest Condon from Ottawa and Alan Furman from Toronto.
Now, Furman is the son of Louis Furman and his wife Grunia. The two were Jewish resistance fighters who formed a community in the Belarusian woods during the Second World War.
Their story became the inspiration for the 2008 Hollywood film Defiance. They escaped the Nazis, survived the war, and made their way to St. John's, where they met the Condon family.
And their story was highlighted early last month when the sign to their old store on Water Street was discovered during a renovation. Yesterday, Furman was reunited with his old friend at the CBC in Toronto, where they spoke about his parents' story and their connection to this province.
Oh my gosh, Arlene, he looks like Louis. He's got his shape, yeah. Oh my God, boss. This is going to be too emotional for me, you know?
Okay, Ron, you have to control
Well.
I tell you, I brought it with me to all the Newfoundland accent. Never forgets that, my son.
Oh my God.
So good to see you, boy.
Super.
How are you?
Last time I held the phone was a long while
Since
back.
1995, boy.
95,
Yeah.
yes. This is
How
my
are
wife,
you?
Arlene.
How are you, Eileen?
I've heard lots about you.
Your family and my family were so close, just like that.
Exactly.
Okay?
It became so. Exactly.
They really went through hell.
Exactly.
You know, the war was so difficult, and my parents saw their families killed in front of them by the Nazis, and it was terrible.
Well, you know, one of the sad memories I had, and I don't know if your dad would have shown this, but your dad, Moishe Kantorowicz, was telling me this afterwards. It wasn't something that he showed me, but he had the coat, the jacket of his father.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Stand be correct now. And I hope it doesn't bring too much emotion to you, but one of the things he told me, how much your mom and dad had gone through, and he had lost his family, part of the his experiences in the war.
Right.
Lost all the family. But he actually had the jacket with a bullet hole through the chest.
Wow.
That was his father's war when he was shot and killed.
It was such a horrible experience to go through. From the International Red Cross later on, they found out that they had relatives in Newfoundland. They never even heard of Newfoundland in those days.
That's right. Most people didn't.
Exactly. So they flew to Gander, and then from Gander to St. John's. It was on the front page of the paper then. I wasn't born yet, obviously. But when they landed in Newfoundland, they told me they felt so at home instantly because people embraced them and were warm to them and kind to them. And it wasn't even part of Canada then.
That's right.
It's a great follow-up to a story. I think Chris O'Neill Yates, we had that when they found the store sign on Water Street during the renovation, the dig. It's great to see that.
It's so nice listening in on their conversation, their shared history.
Yeah.
Made it really comfortable. It's
Absolutely.
lovely.
Yeah, great story. The impact of GM's decision to close the Oshawa plant is going to have ramifications that will be felt right across the country. CBC business reporter Scott Peterson has more.
The move today by GM is part of a broader shift facing global auto production. In addition to Oshawa, 4 other U.S. plants are also being closed. GM is responding to what it sees as a potential for a global slowdown of auto production. Sales in China has slumped. Sales in North America are expected to shrink. So today, the CEO carried out her promise to cut $6 billion a year from GM's expenses. The cuts represent almost 15,000 jobs in total, and GM is struggling with changing its production lines to focus on higher tech vehicles. It wants to have at least 7 million electric vehicles on the road by 2030. And this change in plans did not include the Oshawa plant. So in addition to the 2,500 direct jobs being cut in Oshawa, thousands more could be affected. An estimated 29,000 jobs produce parts used by the plant. 30% of all the parts used by Oshawa are made in Canada, and the vast majority of those coming from Ontario. Another repercussion will be $1 billion a year in lost revenue to the province and the federal government. And this doesn't just affect Ontario.
I think the impact is going to be felt right through the plant, the supply chain, the region. It is, look, to be sensitive, there's a lot of sectors that are going through hard times in Canada today. But this is just as important in Alberta, in BC as it is here in Ontario and Quebec, the same way that the oil sector is important.
Across Canada, the auto industry contributes $19 billion a year to the economy, supporting 125,000 jobs. And if you factor in indirect jobs related to the industry like repair shops, dealerships, and other manufacturing, that number spikes to 400,000 jobs. Today's Oshawa announcement has raised the specter of how much governments can do to keep industry in the country. A low dollar and universal health care used to be enough, but what we have seen with the auto industry and Canada's other big export, oil, is even with multi-billion-dollar bailouts, that's no longer a guarantee a company will stay. Scott Peterson, CBC News, Toronto.
The problem is, very often, industry interests look like they're more important than public interests.
They are lifesavers for thousands of Canadians, but a global investigation, including CBC News, is uncovering the dangers of some medical devices and the hundreds of lives in Canada that have been cut short. Welcome back. Well, before we get to the weather, we'll talk about ice in a different kind of way. Thousands came out to see the Thank You Canada figure skating tours. So Caitlin was here. All the skating stars were here as well, right? Tessa and Scott in town. You both went?
Yes. We went together.
Oh, I didn't realize it was together.
Yes. It was
I
really
didn't
wonderful
get the
show.
invitation. That was laundry day in my household anyway, so yeah.
Well, it was really good. We went to the afternoon program, and you were thrilled.
Oh, I was so happy.
Yeah, they played a Shania Twain song.
Of course.
And I didn't realize what a big fan you are.
I'm a pretty big fan of Shania Twain, yeah.
And this couple?
Tessa and Scott.
Yeah.
Just so amazing.
They were magical. And Caitlin earlier, I don't think we have any video to show you here, but she did her Black Swan routine, which is just mesmerizing.
I don't know, I just find figure skating just evokes such emotion. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, I probably would have too, had I been invited. That looks great in the crowd.
Yeah. Yes. And we were all asked to turn on the cell phone, and of course we had that effect.
Where are the boards?
Yeah, it was very.
Where's the boards?
They're all gone.
All gone for the show.
Well, you really want to trust the skaters who are sitting right by center ice. But they're so good.
Yeah, and they, you know, they were very upbeat. It was a small group of performers, and they interacted really well with the crowd. So it was really, really nice.
Glad you had such a good time.
Great Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as far as what we're going to see weather-wise starting tomorrow night and into the rest of the week, it does look like things will become a little bit more unsettled, especially for the south coast as we head into Wednesday. That's when the next big weather maker moves in. So it looks like at this point the track isn't really agreed upon. So this could either be rain or snow depending on how far north this low tracks. But right now it does look like those winds will pick up Wednesday night for the west coast. And then we'll see all of that precipitation move in. Right now it looks like a mainly rain event for the Avalon, but you can see plenty of snowfall expected for parts of central. Again, temperatures hovering around 2, maybe 3 degrees. So we could see this change over to rain at some point through the afternoon, but some significant rainfall expected Wednesday night into Thursday for the most part for the Avalon, and then heads towards eastern Newfoundland as well. So here's a look at Wednesday's forecast. Again, those winds will pick up, not till late day though. Temperatures generally sitting around 0 to 3 degrees, as I mentioned, not really moving much through the week for the most part. Either rain or snow for parts of central, and then we'll see that be mainly flurries. This system won't affect Labrador as far as that's concerned, but we are still looking at that chance of flurry. So -4 for Nain, -5 for Lab City as we head towards Wednesday. Now, Wednesday night is, like I said, when those winds will mainly move in for the most part. So here's a look at that system and how large it is. Again, it'll start as snow. Likely could see some freezing rain associated with this as well in that northeast flow, but a mainly rain event into Thursday afternoon as well for the Avalon. And then it hangs around for a little bit. It takes a while for it to move off. So it does look like winds will stay quite strong into Friday. But by the time the weekend rolls around, it does look like things will clear out quite nicely and those winds will ease as well. So here's a look at that 5-day forecast. Some winds expected, as I mentioned, Wednesday night right through Friday for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland. Temperatures sitting in the single digits right through Saturday is when we'll start to see that things clear out. Overnight lows not really dipping much either, within 1 or 2 degrees from the daytime high. Central Newfoundland looking at that potential for freezing drizzle tomorrow morning, and then either flurries or drizzle through the afternoon, and then windy right through Thursday. Friday, return of that activity or flurry activity, and then Saturday a mix of sun and cloud and 0. Western Newfoundland will see a beautiful day tomorrow for the most part, 3 degrees. Winds pick up late day Wednesday and then continue through Thursday as well. And then Friday and Saturday look not too bad. Temperatures hovering around 0, maybe 1 degree into the afternoon. And then up through Labrador, not too bad. Slight chance of flurries right through to Thursday, clearing on Friday and Saturday. And then Western Labrador is going to see that temperature dip in the overnights, but generally sitting above seasonal for this time of year. So when I come back, I will have I'll have your weather photo in a little bit.
Thank you, Ashley. Canadian senators still have not decided whether to approve a bill that would end rotating strikes by postal workers across the country. Bill C-89 was debated in the upper chamber on Saturday after the Liberal government fast-tracked it through the House of Commons. The Senate was supposed to vote yesterday, but senators chose to give themselves extra time. Meanwhile, rotating strikes continue today in parts of BC, Ontario, and the Halifax area. Canada Post is warning there's a severe backlog of mail that will only get worse during the seasonal sales period.
Now a story from the Implant Files, a multi-layered investigation into medical devices. CBC, Radio-Canada, and the Toronto Star worked together along with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. Tonight we're going to take a look at textured breast implants. Over the years, more doctors have spoken out against them, and a surgeon in Vancouver is now among the critics. His recently published 13-year study found that textured biocell implants are failing patients more than others. Mukta Gabrasalasa has more on that story.
Breast implants on the inside come in 2 forms, saline and silicone. On the outside, they can be smooth or textured. In the last 10 years or so, some surgeons have spoken out against textured implants. Dr. Nicholas Carr had a study recently published in the Journal of the American Society of Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery. Over a 13-year period, he removed more than 500 implants from his patients and found the BioSil textured implants had a high failure rate and shorter shelf life. He also found that nearly half had double capsules, or double scar tissue, around the implant, which he says was unique to the textured implant. And more than 20% of the patients with this type of implant reported having pain, something he didn't find with the others. His message to patients now?
If you're struggling with your implants for any reason, intermittent swelling, painful implants, peculiar things going on with asymmetries and so on, then you should seek medical attention with a view to possibly having them removed.
Now, he's not the first to raise questions about textured implants. Allergan, the company that makes BioSil textured implants, maintains its implants are supported by extensive preclinical device testing, more than a decade of worldwide clinical use, and a large number of peer-reviewed and published studies. But when a problem exists with any implants, Dr. Carr says the reporting mechanism in Canada is flawed. He says doctors don't receive reports, and it's up to colleagues to educate each other. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
Ukraine's parliament has voted to implement martial law in regions bordering Russia. The government says that will give it sweeping powers to challenge any aggression from Russia. It is in response to yesterday's confrontation with the Russian Navy. The incident happened off Crimea, which Russia seized from Ukraine in 2014. The Russians accused 3 Ukrainian ships of entering sovereign territory and opened fire. They captured the vessels, 2 gunboats and a tug, and their 23 crew members. 6 of the Ukrainians were reportedly wounded, and all are still in custody. The UN Security Council held an emergency meeting today on the incident, but failed to agree on an official response.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection says it's going to review an incident where agents fired tear gas to prevent people from illegally crossing the border. More than 50 people were arrested when hundreds rushed the border on Sunday from Tijuana, Mexico to the United States. The crossing was closed for several hours afterwards, and today that facility was open and it was quiet. More than 5,000 migrants have gathered in Tijuana waiting for an opportunity to seek asylum inside the United States. Most of them are Hondurans looking to escape poverty and gang violence.
Take a look at this photo. We keep getting these gorgeous sunrise photos. It's going to make you guess what it was, but yeah, look, gorgeous shot there. You guys any idea where that is?
I know where this is.
It looks familiar to me too.
It's not far.
No, it's Harbor Bridge.
No.
It's okay.
Can we just go to commercial?
Yeah, we sure can. I'll tell you where it is coming up.
Welcome back, everyone. Just before we get to the picture of the day, we want to tell you about this. NASA's latest robotic vehicle has safely settled into the coppery dust of the red planet.
Touchdown confirmed.
A lot of happy people. The InSight lander is the first probe ever sent to dig deep into the surface of Mars. It's going to measure core temperature and the possibility of earthquakes.
Or Mars quakes.
Yeah, it takes 7 months for InSight to make it to Mars.
The $800 million research probe is the 14th lander to settle on this dusty surface. Take a look at that. It's pretty cool.
The pictures are amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
And how they had to slow it down so that it would land safely. It's such a complex mission. Wait till they start getting the results back.
Yep, fantastic animation.
Well, that picture I just showed you looked like
yes, the
could have been
sunset
taken
on Mars.
on Mars. Yeah, gorgeous stuff. But it isn't Mars. It's actually Babel's here on.
How could we miss that?
Yeah, so gorgeous shot there. Thank you so much for sending that in, Daryl Costello.
And thanks to you all for joining us tonight. Have a great one.
Babels.
See you back tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Good night.
You'll get